Yeah, so since it's the last session, everyone is tired, I don't want to I want you to make it a little bit more interactive so you get to do something. Okay, so who are the lucky ones who have an internet connection?
No.
If you're lucky enough and have an internet connection, you could actually follow along with the presentation. If you enter this, I can show you what URL I have. Okay, so I've got this URL up here, amoeba.ca/books/NiTiM, and then you get that presentation. This is important because you can actually interact with the presentation. Okay.
It's really required that internet connection is in room A.
Oh, okay. Well, we should leave the door open.
Well, you can come in, no Wi-Fi, come in.
That would be good knowledge beforehand that it's in room A.
Yeah, I don't know how that seems to be there.
Okay, so if you manage to log in, if you want to be, this is a chat box here, so if you have any questions, you can or comments exactly. So if you are here as unknown, please enter the name of this green box. Then you don't know here as unknown with a name, just first name or shorthand, anything. Right? Perfect. Okay. If you're bothered by the box, you can make this. So, anyway. All right, so I'm going to talk about opportunity discovery, and the focus is on new ventures. So this is important because we know a lot about established companies, how do they do things, but new ventures in particular in many ways. Limited resources, limited time, they're very ambitious, so it's quite a bit different. So here's my takeaway. Okay, the internet just failed. I was just being impatient. And I just need to learn to be patient with our network. Okay, so key takeaways. The three things I want you to take away from there's nothing else. So one key distinction of a new venture, a new technology. That's the background I have. I deal a lot with technology companies. I'm teaching a technology innovation management program. They're characterized by a lot of uncertainty, a lot more uncertainty than established companies, or at least established companies can deal with the uncertainty more easily. So what should they do as a result? Well, if a traditional company does traditional project management, you plan and you execute, the small companies can't afford to do that. They can't plan and execute, then they're dead. Even if it was the wrong thing they did. So they needed experiments, small experiments, learn from the experiments, iterate. All right? The other thing they need to do, because they're small, they need to collaborate. Now, big companies, I'm not saying you should also collaborate, but big companies must collaborate. Small companies must collaborate. Okay? So need to have partners. These partners can provide them, for example, with channels to market they don't have, right? Access to customers. The small companies are new, so nobody knows them. Okay, so to put this into perspective, or help with the definition of a new venture, here's a definition. Let's look at the definition of technology entrepreneurship. How technology entrepreneurship is different from entrepreneurship. First thing, there's three things. So we can define technology entrepreneurship, maybe a bit differently from what we used to, as an investment into a project. So that's a project that brings together people with very specialized skills and diversity of assets, so knowledge, tools, whatever, resources. It's based on some scientific or technological advance. So it's not retail or restaurant. And finally, creating and capturing value are actually two separate pieces here. So a technology company might create a lot of value, but if they don't have a good business model, they don't manage to capture the value. Right? And in a restaurant, those two things are pretty much connected, you know, or if I'm selling newspapers. Okay? All right. So, now, let's do a little exercise here. I'm not close to not being boxed because it bothers me. What I want you to do is spend 5 minutes on comparing, in order to compare an established company to a new venture, right? So what is it that characterizes an established company? So for example, what do they focus on? What does an established company focus on?
Money, shareholders.
So they focus on shareholders, okay, right? So they focus on shareholders, okay. So if someone has an idea and an internet connection, you can also take one of those nodes and drag it in there, so that I'm not doing all the work here. So that's something a small company would do, yeah.
Yeah, so it's path dependent based on the history.
So who's path dependent? Those?
No, the established company.
Okay.
Might
So they're kind of stuck with it. Maybe another way would be they're kind of stuck with the past, right?
Yeah.
Right? And the new companies, right? They're not, right? They're free to do what? They're going to explore new things, right? Okay. What else?
For the new ones, achieve critical mass for their technology.
Okay. So they need a critical mass.
Yes.
Okay. So what do they need to do? How do they get critical mass?
Make diffusion of their technology.
So they need what? Okay. Let's put it down for now. So in order to, so you just click on the note, okay, and then you can end it. Great. So need critical mass. Okay. All right. Okay, so they should both, I think, customer-oriented, isn't that something that both should be? But maybe, the point is, those guys are oriented towards existing customers, right? Right? So the existing business, existing customers, right? Okay. All right. What else? What about uncertainty? Who has more uncertainty? Who does?
New venture.
The new venture, right? So that would be, I think, I think you can say as the high uncertainty. So I think we got a fair number of okay, good. So we've got a fair number of. Another thing that a small company faces is to renew, right? So the term we use for that is legitimacy. So they're not really visible in the market. They don't exist. Nobody will really buy from them. Why should I buy from you? I'm not going to buy from that big brand company, right? So that lack legitimacy. All right? And one more thing, that's it. I'm told I only have 40 minutes.
So the new technology build reputation.
So the
Build reputation.
interpretation.
Reputation.
Reputation, that's exactly. So those guys over here, they have reputation, and these guys lack reputation. Oh, you didn't have to delete it. You could.
This one deleted it.
This
He
one.
came up with it and he deleted it.
Geez, okay. All right. Good. So I think there's a bit of a lag trying to connect to Canada and back. And connection is slow. I need to stop. Okay.
Experience is part of the work.
Experience with partners. So the guys on the left, they have lots of experience with that. The guys on the right, they need help with that, right? So I need to find the right partner. Excellent. Okay. So, all right. So one way of thinking about the difficulties that they face is in terms of, an process that entrepreneurs, especially new companies, go through. And this is obviously, a conceptual process. We do things intuitively in a barrel. You start out by identifying new opportunities, and you need to go validate those opportunities. Is this a real opportunity? Something, should I go, it's like a little bit what you did, with your proposal. Should I really do a PhD on this? Should I really sink 3 years into it? Is it a good opportunity? Then I need to source secure resources, right? So I need money, I need knowledge, for example. And again, you got the analogy, right? So maybe you need funding, right, for your PhD. And then finally, you need to overcome the liability of newness. That's one of the biggest risks, right? So once I got this far, I got a team, nobody knows me, nobody will buy from me. I don't have a channel, nobody knows me, nobody trusts me. That's pretty much about trust. And again, if you're doing your PhD, it's all new. Right? So you're new, right? You're not established. You're not part of the mafia. And how do you become part of the mafia? Okay. So, in terms of uncertainty that new ventures face, they tend to operate in environments that are more uncertain, are more complex. So, especially as the technology comes. As a technology comes, you assemble pieces, various pieces of knowledge. You don't actually have all those pieces of knowledge, right? That's one reason why you have to collaborate. Right? Things change, so uncertainty is also introduced by change in technology. Right? And then also the other thing is you have very little knowledge about the market, or you don't know what the market demand is like, or maybe you need to develop the market. You need to talk to customers, convince them of the importance and relevance of your product. So there are the graph distinguishes between two sources of uncertainty. So one is technological, and in terms of execution, so you have the capability to execute your opportunity, right? So you pretty much know the market, but you have the capability to execute. Or the second source of uncertainty is market. Can you deliver the product to customers? Do you have the organizational capabilities to do that? Right? So this is actually an important part. Often technology entrepreneurs focus on the first bit. They build a shiny piece of technology and then they expect customers to come. Right? Developing that organizational capability to bring things to market, the commercialization bit is usually a lot more important. Or both are important, but without that second bit, you're not going anywhere. Right. So what companies need to do in order to manage that uncertainty? We can take a lesson from financial investors, right? So we invest in a portfolio of multiple opportunities. Right? So if one doesn't play out, we can take another one, right? So another one might play out. So if we put all our eggs in one basket, that's extremely risky. Now, of course, we've all heard those hero stories. Companies put all their eggs into one basket and won. The troublesome bit about that is we don't hear about the ones who didn't win, right? And put all their eggs into one basket, right? So you need to have. So how can companies manage a portfolio of opportunities? Right? So let's take an example. One entrepreneur that I happen to have the great luck to work with. So this entrepreneur created a new publishing platform that is going to mobile devices, so, iPhones, iPads, and so on. Right? And so here's a tool that comes out of my graph that allows you to map out your portfolio. On the left side, you see technology and execution uncertainty. On the bottom, you have market and organizational uncertainty. So if you're over here, you're on your comfort zone. Not only are you in your comfort zone, this is what companies currently do in that space. Right? Everybody does it. So it's not certainly going to get you a competitive advantage. So you don't really want to be there. Maybe a large company can work here, push out enhancements to what they have. So let's take so if I move up here in terms of technology, high technology uncertainty, what I'm doing is basically I know there is demand. So for example, I know there's demand for for kind of flyers, electronic flyers. There is demand for that. I'm sure. I've talked to people. I'm convinced, right? I don't really know how to do this in terms of the technology side. There's lots of bits pieces that I have to integrate in and so on, and I don't know. How am I going to do this? Is this going to be fast enough? Is it going to be snazzy enough and so on, right? So that's more the positioning option. So it's, if on the other hand, I might know the technology fairly well. I have good control of the technology, it's low risk. However, I don't really know the market that well, or I don't know how to approach the people in the market. So real estate is an example of that. You might say, well, real estate is no different from advertising. Well, it's just another type of advertising. Well, but if you do look at the real estate market, who are the players in the real estate market?
Rich people.
Sorry?
Rich people.
Rich people, okay, those 5,000. Okay, who else? From the
Insurance companies.
insurance companies. Who else is involved? Who's most directly involved?
Municipalities.
Municipalities. Okay, but who else?
Customers.
Who the
Agents.
agents, right? The brokers, right? And who else? Who keeps the information about listings? Is it the brokers or who does? Right? The real estate space is different from the advertising space, which is pretty decentralized, is that they have centralized listings. They all subscribe to the same listing. There's, in Canada at least, there's something called MLS. All the listings go to MLS. The brokers just get them out of there. They get basically access rights. But MLS controls the industry, essentially. So it turns out that it's very difficult. So the uncertainty around getting into the market is pretty high, because I might be able to get to the real estate agents individually, but it's very difficult to well, actually, we figured how to who are we need to approach to get through the MLS, if at all, right? And there might actually be a red flag right here. It might be very difficult to do that. So this is a first mapping, right? And then let's consider a third option, the stepping stone option, where both are uncertain. Market and technology are uncertain. So for example, let's, if someone has an online store, let's create an electronic flyer that's a mapping of their calendar, right? So that one-to-one mapping, it's much snazzier, much nicer. It's a magazine, right? And it's integrated. Right? So, now, one thing you'll notice is, this is, we don't talk about partners here yet, but implicit in this discussion, I already told you about it, the entrepreneurs, the new venture needs to have partners in order to execute in any of this. Right? So this is one of the things we're going to talk about. I'll let you do a quick exercise. How are we doing for time?
Good.
Good, okay. So here's an exercise. Topical exercise. Didn't go Italy last. But I did the slides before. Germany won, so. All right, so if you had, if you were looking at this market, you wanted to introduce a product into this market, right? A product that enhances in some way on this basic technology. So everyone knows that technology, right? But you can go crazy. You don't have to say, well, a ball of different color. That's just an enhancement, right? What will be repositioning in terms of technology advance? What will be the market? What will be market uncertainty? High market uncertainty, right? So let's do that for a couple of minutes.
Motion sensor.
Motion sensor. Where would you put that? So, well, it could be a stepping stone, actually, right? So, it's certainly, there's some technology uncertainty, right? But we're not really not sure whether there's a market for it, right? If you're not sure whether it's a market for it, then it's both, right? And that might be quite an attractive opportunity for us to, so all with motion sensor, okay? Okay, so
like to have a zipper in the ball and take out a cold cola.
So would you say that that's okay? Let's where will we put that? Do we know whether there's a market for it?
Yeah.
You know, right? There is a market for that. Okay, so it's probably not over here. Is it? Yeah. So it's not going to be over there. Is it just an enhancement or is it more? So there's some technology involved. We don't know zipper design, for example, and there's a couple of things that we are aware of. Right? We're the soccer ball business, right? After all, right? That's what we know best. Okay, so orbit, zipper. This is cool. Okay, third one.
Self-inflatable.
A self-inflatable pipe. Okay. All right. So that's good. What would that get?
I would say positioning options too.
Okay. Yeah, it's true because you don't. It seems like a simple solution, but it might be tricky to actually get to work in a cheap way. Maybe it can only cost 5 cents or whatever. Right? Do we have an option when we go to a new market? Or a market that we have a lot of uncertainty around, right? So let's put it that way, right? We don't know about that. Yes?
Assessment of football players.
Assessment of okay, so
Depending how they kick the ball.
Motion sensor.
okay, so that's motion sensor. Yeah, okay, so alright. So
A
maybe something
fair trade ball.
fair trade, okay. So it could be maybe it's that or positioning. I think it has some attributes of the market. We're not really sure if fair trade coffee, but fair trade balls. I don't know, it's a little bit of a push, right? The technology is very simple because it's the same ball, right? It's the identical ball, just rebranded, right? Fair trade, right? Yeah.
And a light in the ball, so it
A
lights
light
up
in the ball. Okay, light in the ball. Okay, so that's fairly easy to do, right? But
It's possible.
It's possible, but we really all know when there's a demand for that, right? So it's perhaps a bit risky, right? Okay, one more thing I'll move on.
Graphene fibers woven into graphene
So, okay.
composites woven into fibers.
Graphene.
Graphene composite is the material
Okay.
woven into
So
the
because it's
fibers.
lighter or
It makes it stronger.
okay. So maybe that's actually one over here because certainly technology.
Oh, I was thinking enhancement because we have nothing in there, but okay.
Oh, well, okay, enhancements are down here.
Yeah, that's-
Oh, maybe it's enhanced. Maybe it's just.
Well,
You're right.
You're upgrading.
So I guess we have to be in
Yeah.
the business to know whether this is something that's really easy kind of to do. It's just the
No, it's not easy at all.
waiting for, right? Okay. So it would be up there. Okay, great. Yes.
Sponsored logo on the ball for the bottom of the 400
Sponsor?
logo on the ball.
Oh yeah, logo on the ball. That's true. So this is pretty.
Just so you know.
Okay. All right. Great. So right away, the new entrepreneur, the new venture knows what they should and they shouldn't focus on and what problems they might have. Thanks. Okay. So one thing I pointed out, new ventures. The way they need to progress is through experiments. So they need to make small experiments, small investments to manage an uncertainty, right? So, for example, market uncertainty. Take the ball with the lighting example. Well, let's maybe what could we do? What's an example of a small experiment?
To find out whether that's okay or not.
Yeah, if you maybe take a light on a ball or something, right? Or take a transparent ball, we cut it open, kind of just make our own, right? Very cheap, right?
Glow in the dark experience.
Yeah, and then try, yeah, exactly. Do something really cheap, right? Just so we can then we test it to the party and see, who like it.
And now you test the technical thing, test the fun of playing football in the dark.
It's a good one, yeah.
It's
So
market
that's right, but you can do that fairly cheaply. So you're early on, right? So that's the point. Right? An experiment is something that you can do early on and cheaply, right? Not traditional market testing when you're all done. Right? And you either have a winner or you fold the company. Right? Okay. All right. So now you've heard about lean startup, but this stuff is a lot older than that. At least goes back to the probe and learn approach by Lin in 1996. Right? So Eric Ries and colleagues that just copied from that group and similar group, which is about the problem that these companies are facing. So it's an evolving market. Technology is evolving constantly. New standards, new components. Right? We need to integrate with other systems. The market is ill-defined. So we might have a clear vision, or we might actually lack that vision ourselves, and customers don't really know about it. So it's a very difficult sale. Right? Many products also need infrastructure. Tesla might be a good example, but maybe not of a small company, but certainly new, right? You need charging stations, for example, for an electric car. Otherwise, it's not going to work. All right? So, the companies and the probe and learn approach, what you need to do is probe a market with, early versions of products. Now, new ventures will benefit from that. Of course, established ventures will also benefit from that. But my focus here is on the new ventures, right? In particular. All right. So, now, here's an attempt to try change your thinking about this a little bit. You may not really think of an opportunity as a project. In fact, you might think of projects as things that we do, project management, we execute stuff, the boring stuff, not the idea stuff, right? Well, when the definition of technology entrepreneurship uses the word project. Kasam, in a recent paper, uses the word project to describe opportunities. Basically says, okay, an opportunity is a project that's potentially profitable and it's not yet exploited. The technology entrepreneurship definition ends with that a project also means to commit resources. So that's the killer, that's the core for a new venture. You have limited resources, and you need to commit them to a project. So it's not just a single activity, it's a project, a whole set of activities, and it also includes, so when you think of a project as essentially a stock of resources that you need to build, to execute the opportunity, you need people with skills, you need a range of assets, resources, skills that you don't have, which you might have to acquire by partnering with someone. So the notion of the project and also does not just include the resources that you commit, but also the resources you get from partners. So it's resources, your own resources plus partners that are part of the project. Traditionally, when you think of projects, is a project inside a company. That's not what I'm talking about. All right. So now you can take that idea a bit further. So in some of our recent work, we've looked at how companies explore opportunities, and what we found is that they tend to explore related opportunities. So even within a certain space, say the e-commerce space, there's risk management. They don't just do one experiment. They talk to one company to find out whether or not they should go to the e-commerce space. They talk to 5 companies, right? If that gives them a signal that they should proceed, they might talk to another 5, right? So what they did here is, so one reason for doing that is that you can exploit similarities. So you discover that customer needs in a certain space is similar, and that's what defines your product. That's what you're going to have in your product. Not the stuff where they're different, right? The second thing that companies are trying to learn from exploring projects in the same space is that they need to learn who the key existing players in that space are, who they could partner with. Remember, right? I don't have direct access to customers, or it's going to be extremely costly for me to talk to hundreds of customers. I just don't have the capacity. If somebody else has that, they will much of leverage. Now, there are, however, two types of existing players. One are mediators that can help you gain access to customers, can help you gain resources, can help you build up reputation. And there are others who are going to prevent your entry. So here's the distinction between the advertising, with the e-commerce example, and the real estate example. The real estate example, the companies go to talk to real estate agents, they found out from them, how do you actually place your ads and so on, if they learned, okay, there's this one central agency, at least in Canada, this is how they do things. We all like your idea, but that player is not going to like it because you're eating their business. Right? So they got that feedback and say, we know how to access the market, but if you can't get past that player, it's a no-go. We're just wasting our time. So before they even went out all out and built a real estate, advertising platform, they realized that they shouldn't even do that. I learned very early on. They focused on this key lesson. In the e-commerce space, it was different. They found that that it was a win-win situation. The companies who provided shopping cart solutions, for example, to customers, found this an attractive opportunity to kind of play in a different space, a new space, to gain some additional revenue that wasn't eating their cake. All right. So there's a couple of things that you can learn about the project space will then help you make decisions whether you should go ahead or not. And obviously I could talk a little bit longer about this, but so some of these things are, which niche should I go into? What's the potential market size? Does it actually generate revenue for me right now? That might be, or will I learn about, a new revenue model? Can I develop a new organizational capability through partners, for example? Will there be some unique IP? These are all plus points. Is there synergy between the opportunities, between the projects? The more synergy, the better for me. And finally, do these opportunities help me integrate with others, become part of the value net? So I'm integrating with suppliers, I'm integrating with customers, or I become complementary for somebody. Right? So, the companies need to experiment, inventors need to experiment, but also need to collaborate. So we already identified the missing resources and they suffer from the liability of newness. So they need to tap into their network to access those resources and gain the reputation and the legitimacy that they need. So things, specific examples of resources, of channels, talent, access to cash, or complementary products. Right? Now, you can say, well, that's all fine. I know now how the new venture benefits from the partners. But why? Just why would the partners go for it? Right? When we talk to many of our entrepreneurs, they don't have a good answer to that. They know what they get from the partners. So they say, I'm a partner with Microsoft. And we say, okay, what's Microsoft going to get from you? So you have to have a real good answer to that. give you some suggestions. It gives you, an established player, an option to play in a space that they're not that comfortable with. They don't know whether it's going to make any money. But hey, this company is offering, to play. Gives them an option on that new space. If it works, they buy the company. If it doesn't, well, good luck. We didn't spend time on it. And might even provide additional sources of revenue. So, for example, in the e-commerce example, the company we dealt with made a revenue sharing agreement. So that makes it very attractive to the e-commerce service provider to work with them. In return, the company gained access to customers that they would have never gotten. Lots of press and visibility, and photos of the mayor and all that. So, which brings me to the final part of this presentation is, so what's most often missing in technology venture is any thinking about the business model. So the answers that we provide in here are, why should anyone buy from me? The answer, who am I selling to? How I'm going to do it? Do I have the capabilities? And this includes having access to partners who can help me. And finally, what's the bottom line? Am I just creating value, or am I also capturing value for myself? All right. So now, business models, all the things that I need to iterate over. They need to be they're very flexible. You need to be very flexible. You will try to articulate your business model very early on so that it's just another type of experiment. Right? And appropriately, people talk about business model discovery. Not about business plans, which are this kind of final, touch attached to them. So it's not an analytical process. It's a process where you try, you learn, you try, you learn. You can't just sit, you go away, close yourself, and you emerge 2 weeks later with a bright business model. It's not going to work. I know that already. All right. So here is an example for the business model that our entrepreneur could have created. So that's not the exact business model, but something like that. What you see here is based on the business model canvas. That's a popular notation. The main elements are the value proposition in the middle. You have customers on the right. You have partners on the left, and you have the bottom line at the bottom. Now we've modified this slightly to include the concept of projects. So what this actually is the business model canvas for e-commerce projects. So this is the business model around exploring the e-commerce project space. Not the other opportunities. There will be a separate business model canvas for those. So what you can capture on here are your assumptions. You can clarify your thinking about your business. So for example, in terms of, well, who are my partners? What am I offering to them? Okay, well, so I am generating more revenue. And in that case, the partners also become my customers, so they generate. So I'm in the sense that I'm creating value for them. Through the e-service providers, my partners, I also get access to store owners. I would have never gotten access to store owners otherwise. What do I offer to store owners? My value proposition to them is a more attractive form of advertising. In terms of what I need is, my key advantage is the publishing platform that nobody else has. It's difficult to replicate. All right? In terms of bottom line, for example, I can generate revenue through revenue sharing. All right. So, my only okay, that's generate just one value proposition, one partner, one just how would you apply this to the soccer venture? Or which this is almost my last slide anyhow. Which which of the options do you want to go for? Ball with light, or the motion sensor one, or the one with bearing, the one with coloring? Okay. So. Okay, so, all right, so we got that. Who do I need to, what's the value proposition? Or who are the customers? Okay, so one customer might be you, okay? Roland, okay. Okay, what, soccer players? Okay. I'm not sure that was who else? Who will be a partner? Beverage companies. Great example. Great example. Okay, so it could be soccer ball. So that depends on our inherent capability. So, right? If you're only the guys with the idea of putting things together, then maybe that's going to be a bit more difficult though to arrange, ties with multiple partners. But let's say maybe just the beverage companies, right? So I create value for them, right? So for the one beverage companies, I would create revenue, additional revenue, right? For example, okay. For the thirsty soccer player, well, obviously, because so it's basically convenience. Okay, you get the idea, right? So you can complete that or leave it at that because that's good. Health, medium, long term. So that would be a benefit. Or that cost. Oh yeah, right. That's the thing here. That is definitely a cost. Let's wait for this one. You're talking something? No problem. So, all right. So here's what somebody else had to say in terms of strategies. Two of those strategies were already something that we identified. You want to exploit similarities between customer needs, so that's why you look at project spaces. You want to expand through mediators with established customers, established general users of the products. Another lesson that these authors found that we didn't identify or point out earlier was that we can also tap into customer communities, right? So customers can share, the product, refer up to the product to other customers, share information about the use of the product, the benefits of the product with each other, and that, of course, reduces your cost to market the product. So, in conclusion, new ventures faced with a significant amount of uncertainty, which includes market and technology uncertainty. So what do they need to do? They need to invest in small experiments from which they can learn, rather than do big things, plan and execute. And since they're small and don't have all the resources, like for example channels, they need to collaborate and find our partners. Along the way, of course, when they do this, they might find out that maybe this is not a space to go into. So how do they do that? They manage a portfolio of opportunities, right? So rather than just going after one opportunity, you manage a portfolio of opportunities and the associated project. And that's an important concept because the project combines the resources that are required, that you're committing or that others provide to you, and the set of partners. If you talk about an ecosystem context, you want kind of a subset of the ecosystem that you are selecting. So what the new venture wants to do, and those are the tools that I talked about, you want to map out spaces of related projects, and you want to use projects. So the opportunity plus the resources and the partners as the drivers for business model design. So this is a way of clarifying your thinking about your business model, make sure it works, it's linked to your opportunities. Thank you. We might have some time for questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Weiss. I now have to leave at 4, so I think I have time for 3 or 4 questions. So, please.
You can also paste them here
Yes,
if
if
you
you
have a
want.
connection. Yes.
Michael, thanks for the presentation. What do you think about the possibility to use a platform when you have something radically new?
Right. So I think this is especially important, very good that you point that out. The company was talking about was in fact developing a platform. So what they did initially said, I thought, oh, we'll just expand the platform and try to find customers. And they realized it doesn't work that way. Customers don't want a platform. Customers want their problem solved. So the company really had a very good platform. It was a general purpose mobile publishing platform. But they didn't have any particular customers. They couldn't pay their bills. They were about to give up when they started thinking in terms of specific projects. Right? That's fine. Whether this is going to work in the advertising space. We think with them. What are the risks? How do we approach? Who do we need to approach? What do we need to do? And they found that's like a reasonable opportunity. Maybe not quite as strong as the e-commerce one, which was the other one that they explored. And the real estate one, they found, well, that's not going to work. At least not now. They also explored other opportunities. For example, it was really interesting. First thing they thought of, let's partner with other small companies. They found out they didn't have any money. They didn't have any customers. They couldn't help them. It was the natural thing. Everybody tells you to do that. But it will work. It didn't work for them. They need to find established partners.
A additional question. Do you think without the platform you would have been able to run the project?
So it's the platform is the idea of the platform is the synergy, right? The synergy.
Yeah, that's the point, yeah.
Right. So that's the point, right? So if you only have one operating one project space, you might not need a platform because there's a lot of similarity, right? But if you expand into other project spaces, right? Then you're basically over time you will emerge. You arrive at a platform and then thinking in terms of a platform, right?
Yeah, but you said that you want to have a portfolio of opportunities,
yes.
and it's almost impossible for small companies to run so many projects, huh?
Well, you see, the projects, okay, here's the key thing. The projects are not necessarily long-term commitments. The project can be very small, it represents the resources the person is dedicating to a single experiment, right? It can be just talking to customers, that's my point. It could be more expensive implementation activity if I'm further along, if I already receive signals that I should do this. Right? So it's like an agile development where there are time box what I'm doing. Right? I'm not just going to say, I'm going to do this however long it takes. Project allows you to think about that. This is how much I want to spend on this. If I can't do it within that time frame, I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to park. Might still be a good idea, but we can't do it. It's too risky. Right?
I think there is another question there.
Maybe I'm not just a tool organizer. Thanks for your book, I guess. Everything that was interesting for me. And I guess that I'm not so far from what people are asking. It seems to me that what you're saying, in other context, my context is industrial engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. Could have other name. Personally, I work in the area of marine engineering and product development. And there, I really have just to change instead of venture product, new product, let's say, and I will have the way Toyota is designing its products. Because it's actually the same stuff in some way, even if there are obviously some differences. So my interest, my question then is, if we are already consider the role of, let's say, lean approaches, partly yes, because you're mentioning agile,
Right.
For some
Yes.
voters could be considered a kind of definition label.
Yeah.
But I don't know if maybe you found this. I know that now there are authors within it also with lean program management.
Okay, well, certainly the lean idea, right, lean startup and lean product they fit with this, right? Because they emphasize the time boxing, reducing of risk. And one thing that I hadn't pointed out, a lot of the discussion at the ICE conference also alluded to collaboration between companies. Collaboration between companies. Many of the studies simply assume that the projects are already defined. Companies collaborate on projects are defined. But how on earth do we come up with those projects? That's what this was about.
Thank you for the presentation. That's
Yeah.
exactly what is part of my PhD is. And you can also afterwards.
Right around, right around.
The matchmaking in explorative context, actually.
Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.